Here at Gears and Gasoline, we've had a few busy weeks. Between the Grid Life South this weekend, and the various edits we've got on our plates, we didn't have a release ready for this Saturday. So, we decided that I could introduce you guys properly to my car.
So the first thing that you guys should know is that of all the crazy Evo builds that we've had on the channel throughout the years, this isn't one of them. This is basically a stock Evo 9 MR. And the purpose of introducing it to you guys today is I might want to start doing some work to it in the future. And I would love to put that stuff on the channel, but in order for that to happen, you guys need to meet her first. So, this is Lana.
Like the plate says, I've named my car Lana, after the Archer character. I've had it since late 2014, after it was wrecked by the previous owner, who I never met. I repaired and retitled the car in 2015, but she's still got scars.
First, let me give you guys some background about the model. So this is a Evo 9, which means that it is the 9th generation of Lancer Evolutions, and it was only made for 1 year, and that's 2006. And it's also an MR, which stands for Mitsubishi Racing. And what that means is a couple of different things. It means that this car is going to have a 6-speed manual transmission rather than a 5-speed. It's also going to have forged BBS wheels and Bilstein suspension rather than the KYBs that come on regular Evos. And while all that stuff is nice, it's also kind of a little bit silly, and there's a couple of reasons why. First off, the 6-speed transmission. While it's really nice to have 6 gears, it will help you stay in the power band more often, and ostensibly it gives you better gas mileage. The problem with the 6 speeds in these Evos is that Mitsubishi took all the internals of the 6-speed transmission and put them into a 5-speed casing, which leaves less room for gear oil. As a result, things inside the transmission are going to get a lot hotter after consecutive use, so anybody who's going to do a lot of track days is going to see their gears warp and eventually bind, and they won't be able to use that transmission. So almost anyone who's going to do track days usually just switches over to a 5-speed anyways. And it's the same deal with the suspension. Now don't get me wrong, Bilstein makes some really nice stuff, but look at this. Almost any Evo owner is going to want to change out their suspension for an aftermarket unit, whether to just get it lower or so that it will handle even better than stock. So regardless of whether you give us KYBs or Bilsteins, it's probably going to get changed out for something aftermarket. And it's the same deal with the wheels. I think that the BBSs are very beautiful, they're definitely really strong, they're really light, but most owners are going to want to have that customizability factor of their car. They're going to want to go with some NTO3s or some RPF1s. So even if you give us forged wheels instead of cast wheels, BBSs instead of Enkis, it's probably going to get changed out.
I'm not complaining about the additions Mitsubishi made to a more expensive trim level. I'm just trying to humanize the MR a bit. Often I'll hear people get very excited when I say that my car is an MR edition, as though they think it has more horsepower or super high-tech computers. It's really just a 6-speed Evo that will probably someday get swapped to a 5.
Okay, now we're going to look at the engine. And this is Mitsubishi's famous 4G63. This engine was used in cars all the way back to the early 80s, and it was used in all of the Evos all the way up until the Evo 10, when it was finally replaced by the aluminum block 4B11. The 4G63 has a cast iron block, forged steel connecting rods, aluminum piston heads, and only on the Evo 9, variable valve timing. Now Mitsubishi called this VVT system MIVEC, and MIVEC stood for Mitsubishi Innovative Valve Timing Electronic Control System. Because of course it did.
The 4G63 cranks out about 230 wheel horsepower in stock form, and about the same amount of torque. My car is fitted with a turbo back exhaust, so it probably makes a bit more power.
This is the interior of the car. And Mitsubishi paid really close attention to 2 specific details, and that's the steering wheel and the seats. Now the steering wheel is super ergonomic. It feels really sporty, it feels good in your hands, especially when you're driving hard. I honestly can't see anybody changing it out for some kind of aftermarket unit because it's just so good. And the same deal with the seats. They bolster very well, and they're actually really comfortable. And I think that they look fantastic. The shifter itself is really snug and accurate. Even after driving cars with a lot more money in them and a lot more development, this never doesn't impress me. The actual throws themselves, they're not that inspiring. But the crispness with which it goes into every gear makes me feel like the engineers paid a lot of attention to this part of the drivetrain.
The MR also comes with a nice little cluster of gauges which do tell you some fairly useful information about your car, but they do it in the most useless way possible. They're located at the bottom of the dash where you couldn't possibly be looking while driving.
Now the last thing that we're going to talk about is going to be the infamous Evo ACD button. Now when you press this little button, it's going to change you between 3 different modes: tarmac, gravel, and snow. Now, what a lot of people think that that's doing is changing the torque split or the torque bias between the front and rear wheels. That is not what it's doing. It's not like a Subaru with its DCCD where it can actually change the amount of torque going to the front or rear wheels, the percentages. In a stock Evo, there's no way to change the percentages of torque. It's always going to be 50-50. What the ACD button is doing is it's controlling how the center differential is going to lock up your differentials. So in a high traction situation, you might want your differentials to lock up more or less than in a low traction situation. That's why it's based on tarmac versus gravel versus snow. So what it's not doing is controlling torque. What it is doing is controlling your differentials. So that's pretty much it. I hope that any of these little tidbits of information were in some way useful or interesting to you guys, but I'm pretty sick of talking now, so I think I'm just gonna go drive. You guys are welcome to come along for that, or just have a great day, and we'll see you guys next time.